Welcome back to the Fish Life Podcast. Hey, tonight we're going to have a great episode. We're going to talk about what does it take to become a professional bass fisherman with Bassmaster Elite Series Pro and Champion, Frank Talley. We're going to get into that, break that down with him. It's going to be an interesting discussion because there's a lot more to it than what you think there is. I think there's a lot of things that are understood, misconceptions, you might say, in the world of bass fishing fan to what actually goes on with a bass fishing pro. So we're going to break that down. It's also just a great week to be around Northeast Texas bass fishing, man. There is a lot of good fishing going on. The offshore bites really starting to get going. Lots of guys are catching them extremely well right now offshore. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. Of course, we're going to answer as many of y'all's questions as possible. This is the Fish Life Bass Fishing Podcast. It's the lowest budget that's actually live. We spend the least money, and we're always actually live on this one. So we're the lowest budget, actually live fishing podcast out there. No disrespect to my boy Luke Duncan, who is low budget live, because he runs a great podcast. His is a lot better than ours. In fact, you should definitely turn this one off and go listen to Low Budget Live. It'll be a lot better podcast. But we're the lowest budget actually live, which makes us the L-ball, and it makes all of you the low ballers. So we appreciate you guys coming on in here and hanging out with us in true low ball fashion. Hey, do us a favor as you get in here tonight, man. If you enjoy these podcast episodes on Sunday evenings, go ahead and hit that thumbs up. We will certainly be appreciative of that. Also, if you guys could, drop me a comment as you get in here. Let me know who's watching with me. We got some weird stuff happening. I'm hoping I'm not having technical difficulties right now. We might be, though. I'm live on a new phone. Look, the screen's not cracked. There's only one of me now. So hopefully we're not having technical difficulties on the new phone. I think we might be, though. Anyways, you guys get in here. Drop me a comment. Let me know who we're talking to tonight. And, yeah, share this thing. Share it. That would be great. I would greatly appreciate it if each and every one of you guys would share it as you get in here. So cheers, y'all. Fish Life Podcast. Let's get it. Man, that's good. So, couple of things to get to before we get into tonight's discussion with Frank Talley, which I'm really looking forward to. If you don't know who Frank Talley is, Frank the Tank Talley, was champion last year at the Bassmaster Elite Series on Lake Guntersville in the fall. He's got a lot of good finishes. He's fished 2 Bassmaster Classics now. He's obviously a guy that has a ton of experience. He came into it late into life. We're going to get into all that, so it should be a really interesting discussion. I don't want to talk too much more about that, but we've got a big event happening this week of our own that we want all of you guys to participate in as well. At the end of this week, Friday, July 2nd, kicks it off. We're having our Your Lake Fork Guide Fish Life Forever Grateful tournament that benefits the great military and first responder nonprofit 22 Kill. It's going to be a huge event, a lot happening this week. We're going to have an open team tournament Saturday. Registration for that's going to start Friday at 6 p.m. When registration starts, we're going to have a seminar. We're also going to have a roast. Some of my closest friends are going to get up there and tell a lot of bad stories about me. So we're going to do a roast at the seminar. Of course, we're going to talk to the 22 Kill guys at that seminar as well. Immediately following said seminar, we are going to have a boat deck country music concert from no other than Billy Joe Jones. Billy Joe Music's where you can find her stuff at. She's an amazing world-class vocal talent from right here in East Texas. She's from Grand Saline. Her and her husband, great people. They've got about 85 kids. So we need to come out and support her. But it's going to be a free concert to the public. She's doing this to help us out with this event and hopefully help raise some more money. So you guys come out there, get registered for the tournament. Even if you can't fish the tournament, come out and hang out, enjoy some guys trashing me at the roast at the seminar, and then enjoy a great free concert. We'll have a big old bass fishing party. Saturday, we're going to have the open team tournament. It's $100 per team, $20 big bass, $120 total, gets you into everything, all categories, and you can go get after it and have fun with a bunch of your Lake Fork Guide Nation anglers and go out on one of the greatest bass fishing lakes that's ever existed, Lake Fork, and go swing the hammer and see if you can't win you some money in that deal, because it is going to be a 70% payback. We're going to have 30% donated, 70% getting paid back to the charity itself. At the weigh-in for said tournament, we're going to have many auction items. So again, even if you're not fishing in the tournament, show up. You might find an auction item that you want. You might get it for a good price, and all of the money from the auction is going to go to 22 Kill as well. We'll have some silent auction stuff as well as some live auction items as well. We're also going to have a Your Lake Fork Guide Invitational Tournament on Sunday, where it's going to be me and a crew of my partners. We're going to get together, and you get to buy your teammate in that tournament. It could be me. It could be David Ozil. It could be Cody Mays. It could be Zach Watts. It could be Vic Pearsall. It could be, there's a few other guys as well that we're going to have showing up for that deal on Sunday. So you'll get to check out all the competitors. You'll get to bid on who you want to be your partner in Sunday's tournament as well. Skeeter's getting fired up. Oh, Skeeter Bug. She's in the background getting fired up. I see her. She wants to chase a ball right now. If y'all watch the channel, you know Skeeter Bug's the old fishing dog. Come here, Skeeter. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come. There she is. Here she is, folks. See, she's got her ball in tow. She's ready to go. Go on, girl. Go lay down. She hears me talking, and she gets a little fired up about it. So anyway, you'll be able to bid on your partners for Sunday's event, the Invitational Tournament, at the auction at weigh-in on Saturday as well. So a lot going on around that event. Going to be a huge event. It's going to be a giant bass fishing party, and it's going to be for a great freaking cause. So we really want to see you guys out there for that. Now, before we go any further, we got a couple I'll be there's and see you Fridays and fishy. What's up, B-Law? There we go. We got some good stuff happening. Can't go, bro. Boat is not running. Steering column broken. Car caught on fire yesterday. What the heck? Just a bad weekend for us. My good. I'd say that's an understatement there for if I'm going missing, I'm going fishing. Man, if you're not too far from here and you have a way to get here, get down here, brother. Just get down here and enjoy the festivities. We're going to have a blast. I'm really sorry to hear about your boat and your vehicle. That's insane. But if you have a way to get here, man, come enjoy the free concert. Come enjoy the seminar and the roast and hang out at the auction, man. We're going to have a really, really good time. And, you know, we could always use some more fishing fans hanging out with us, so we would love to see you there, even if you can't fish in it. Like I said, we want as many people to fish in it as possible. We want guys to contribute money any way they can. That's the point of this event. But the real bigger point is just all of us get together and celebrate this sport and celebrate a great cause and support each other doing it. So May says, does this count as safe while driving? Probably not, bro. Probably not. Let's say some hellos to those early risers that are here. We got Andrew Alphabet in the house. Ern Organiz, if I'm going missing, I'm going fishing. If your car's going missing, it probably set on fire. Just saying. Busting Outdoors, Brian Anderson, John Sherrod, Ray Lowe, Cody Mays. Man, we appreciate each and every one of you guys. Once again, if you enjoy the podcast, hit the thumbs up. We're about to get into Frank Talley here. If you enjoy the podcast, hit the thumbs up. Drop me a comment. Let me know who we're talking to. And also share this thing. You guys know how to do it better than I do because I'm dumb and y'all are hopefully less dumb. Hopefully a lot less dumb than me. But anyways, share this thing. It helps me a bunch, and I sure appreciate it. But right now, we'll talk about current area fishing conditions once we're done talking. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit with Frank Talley, but we're going to talk about that after we talk to Frank Talley. Right now, let's see if we can get Bassmaster Elite Series Pro and Champion Frank Talley on the phone. Once he's on here, you guys let me know if y'all can hear the audio okay.
What's up?
The tank is in the house, folks at home. How you doing, brother?
Oh, brother, I'm doing just watching it rain a little bit out here.
That's right. We've got some pop-up showers all over the great state right now.
I know, and they'll come down for about 5 or 10 minutes hard, then they're gone again. You know.
That's some good old Texas summertime pop-ups. That's what they do. Now, for those that don't know, this is Frank the Tank Talley, and my man is residing in, I believe, Temple, Texas. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, sir. Temple, Belton area. I mean, my address is Temple, but we just moved into a new house here in Belton.
Okay.
And so, yeah, but I mean, 5 minutes apart. You know, depends where the county puts the sign. Which city you're living in, you know? That's
right, absolutely. The main thing is you're down there in the middle of Texas where it begins to get unbearable hot at times.
Yes, sir. Humidity high, everything.
Everything. Just all that heat factor going on, dog. All that heat factor. Well, Frank, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on here tonight. We appreciate you taking the time. I know you guys are getting ready to get wound up and make a long journey north next week.
Yes. Yeah, 886 miles, 1,886 miles from my house to Plattsburgh, New York to Champlain. So, yeah, that's the first stop, and then it's like 5-hour backtrack down to the St. Lawrence. So, yeah, everybody out there says, man, I love being a professional bass fisherman. Heck, that's the fun part of it. It's the truck driving that's really the job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot like, with, my business is obviously a lot different from what yours is with the fishing cart because I guide and then I get on the water and film videos, but then there's all the content production and the company management from the app that we own. And what I always tell people is when everybody thinks I'm at work, I'm not at work. That's when I'm having fun. It's when I go home, that's when all the work starts.
Oh, brother, I wouldn't take your job for anything. All that editing and all that. That's above my pay grade, no doubt.
I think it's probably above mine at times too. It's interesting you mentioned that everybody thinks about a pro bass fisherman, because what I really wanted to get into with you tonight was I really feel like there's a lot of misconceptions about this, and I'm inside the industry enough that I know something about it, but I'm not going to know nearly as much as you, obviously. But there's a lot more challenges and a lot more stuff to becoming a professional level tournament bass fisherman than I think the public realizes. And we've got so many high school kids coming up now that's what they want to do. They'll tell you straight up, man, I want to be a professional level tournament bass fisherman. And there's a lot more to it that I think most people realize. So I really kind of wanted to dive into that in depth with you tonight and kind of ask you some of the questions about what it took to become a professional bass fisherman. Because, Frank, you're a guy that had an established career. You had kids a little bit earlier on in life. You had an established career. You own your own businesses. And then you got to the professional level at the top tier later on in life, correct?
That's correct, Billy. Yeah. I did it. Everybody's different, and I just did it the way that I thought was best for me and my family. I mean, me and my wife, you kind of know a little bit of my background, but I'll tell the audience out there, we met each other at 17 years old, and we ended up having twins. And at 17, 18 years old, heck, we're still kids ourselves,
right.
And I was like, you know what, my parents were always a part of my life in a big way. So, I wanted to return that to my kids. That's how I was raised. So I'm like, I put my dreams and aspirations on hold, and I raised my kids. I wanted to, teach them how to, play sports and be the coach in the little league and that type of stuff. And, so that's what I did. I mean, I took basically from the time I was, 18 years old till I was 40. I mean, I fished a lot, don't get me wrong, but I fished just on a local and a regional level. But, knowing that, I could never take that next step. And I honestly, with professional bass fishing, there's a lot of stress out there when it comes to, paying a mortgage and that type of stuff. So, I thought it was better that you can fish a lot more free, and I use quotes on that, meaning your mind's freer. You don't have anything. You don't have to worry about making a check, cutting a check to pay the bills, and that type of stuff. So I just thought that was the best way for me and my family, to do it. And so, after when I turned about 42 and got my last boy, we ended up having one more kid, and he just graduated high school last week. And so, when he got into high school and it was time for me to just, finally get to that point where, just get out there and see if I could chase that dream, and it unfortunately has worked out, no doubt.
It really has worked out, and you've done really well. I mean, listen, it's not like Frank Talley's been on the Elite Series for 10 or 15 years, but in your time there, you've already won an Elite Series event, which is more than most of the guys that ever qualify can say. So that's amazing. At the same time, you're not the top guy. Like, you're not Gerald Swindle, you're not Greg Hackney. You haven't had that longevity and all those accomplishments. You don't have that resume that they have in bass fishing. I think you're a really good guy to ask these questions to, because you're in it fairly early as far as numbers of years at that level, but you've already had success. And one thing that I'm always that I'm still curious about, because I know a little bit, but again, like I said, I don't know nearly as much as you will. What percentage of guys are like yourself, where you're at the top level? Heck, you've won an event. You're making money as far as that goes, but you have another kind of full-time job at home.
True. Yeah, I mean, I have a job. Me and my wife, we own a hydraulic shop here in Temple, and so we have a business that's established. We have employees. It pays the bills at home. So when I'm out on the road, I don't have to worry about, like I said, the mortgage being paid, the lights being turned off, that type of stuff. That's taken care of. So basically, my fishing has to support itself. So what that means is, between winnings and sponsorship dollars, that's, long as I, break even, or of course, ultimately you want to increase your money, your bank account. But, as long as it breaks even and I can chase this dream and fish professionally, then I'm good with it, and so is the my wife and the family. So I'm as long as I'm not taking away from my family, my kids and my wife, then I'm good with it, and they're good with it also. So, but they support me. I mean, they've told me, hey, if we, a lot of people don't know this, but the big misconception is everybody's riding around in these rat trucks, rat boats, and it's, we're just loads of money falling out of our pockets. Trust me, 90% of guys on tour are literally living paycheck, tournament to tournament. If they don't cash a $10,000, cut check, I mean, they're hurting, and so and when you can go out there and fish, like I said kind of earlier, fish free and don't have that pressure on yourself, it's so much better. There's a lot of guys out there that literally launch the boat on practice and they know they have to cash $10,000 check and make the cut. If not, they're not going to make it back home because they don't even have the fuel money, to make it back. And that's the reality of the sport. That's what you don't see. You see a lot of glamour and glitz and everybody, man, I wish I was these guys. And, but the bottom line is that's only about 5% of the professional ranks. The other 95% are literally struggling from tournament to tournament.
And the vast majority of guys, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the vast majority of guys they may not own their own business, may not have something like you have, but the vast majority of guys are doing something outside of tournament fishing to bring income into their situation. Whether it's a lot of them guide, like I know Lee he still guides a lot, and heck, he's won 2 of them, but he's still doing some guiding. I see him out there guiding all the time. Patrick, I know from talking to Patrick, he guides back home on Santee Cooper, but almost all of those guys, unless you are Gerald Swindle or somebody like that, as far as the length and notoriety and kind of fame that's come with the success he's had, you're working another job. You're not just tournament bass fishing. Is that correct?
That is correct. No doubt. A lot of guys, like you said, probably the biggest occupation outside of, for a professional bass fisherman, of course, is guiding because, one, customers see that and they say, well, if this guy's good enough to fish professional, then he's good enough to, take me out and show me my electronics and that type of stuff, And then there's a few guys out there like you that just have a good rapport with the public and the people that, they trust you, and so they take you out because you can teach them everything. It's not that you couldn't be a professional bass fisherman, Billy. It's just because you haven't either pursued it or you just haven't, gave it enough effort to do it, because that might not be what you exactly want to do, But there's plenty of guys in my hometown and in the state that can put a shellacking on me, no doubt. It's just, I always tell people I just caught the right fish at the right time, you know what I mean? And so that's kind of what happens. I mean, I'm a humble guy, and I just, there's a lot of other fishermen out there that can, literally beat the brakes off of me, but that's just,
There's some hammers. There's some hammers all over this state, I know.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And, there's a lot of guys that just, like I said, haven't pursued it due to either family or finances, or they just don't want to be away from home that long. There's a lot of people that, when we start the season out, I mean, we're gone, 20, 25 weeks a year. So that's half the year on the road. And that's a big commitment, to be away from your home and your family. And even if you don't have a family, just being away from your home, you come back, you leave one time, and then the next time you come back, your grass is knee high. You know what I mean? And so it's like, there's a lot of preparation. You got to have your bills being paid while you're gone, as far as like auto draft and stuff. There's a lot more to it than just leaving the house and coming back in 6 weeks and pick up where you left off.
Sure. And, for me, myself, I'm in a situation right now similar to where you were before you and after it is in, I've got 2 sons that are 11 and 8, and I don't know if I would be good enough to make it or not. I have no way of knowing that until I try it. But I know right now that even if I won, I wouldn't want what I would win because I don't want to be away from home because I got that 11-year-old, that 8-year-old kid. So, that's a situation a lot of guys find themselves. I know Brian Dupleshain is one of the best fishing guides, maybe the best bass fishing guide I would say ever. He's amazing. He's so good. He's never gone after that national tournament level trail, but Brian's a family man. He loves being home with his family. He wants to be around them every day. And so that deal just never really worked for him. So there's a lot to consider. Now, one other thing that there is for guys that are wanting to think about doing this is young people. If you're a young guy and you don't have a family and you want to chase it and become the next Patrick Walters, or where he comes straight out of college and does, hey, more power to you. But one thing you got to be aware of, bro, it's hard to qualify. Like, can you talk about that for a second, about just how good you can be for so long and never get that invite?
Oh, yeah, no doubt, Billy. I mean, that is the hardest thing to do. Is okay. So you have all your ducks in a row. You're ready to hit the what we call the opens is the AAA. It's similar to baseball. That's the way I look at it. You got single A, double A, then you got the opens, which is AAA, and then you got the Elite Series, which is pro ball. Just because you're ready to do it doesn't mean you're going to do it. I mean, I've seen some guys that are like mega hammers, and they've tried to qualify for 8, 10, 12 years and still haven't done it, and those guys normally, on any given day, can beat the brakes off of you. But here's the deal is it's just not a one tournament deal. It's like I tell people, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And so you got 3 events. The year that I qualified in 2018, there was actually the most events ever in one division, and that was 5. I had to fish 5 tournaments, which right now it's always been, usually 3.
3,
and
yeah.
I had to fish 5. We fished 5 events that season. So to be able to finish in the top 3 after 5 events, that's just longer odds. In other words, 3 events is easier to qualify than 5 events. You just keep, adding another event. So you got to keep doing better and keep doing better. And, fortunately, I just had one of those years. I mean, 4 out of the 5 tournaments that I fished in the opens, I made top 12s, which top 12s is the 3rd day, which is the final day. So, I mean, I literally just had an incredible year.
Had a good run.
I qualified the first year that I tried it,
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
And that's not realistic. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. A lot of things fell my way. I caught some key fish and stuff. Some people call it luck. Some people say, well, that's because, you're that good. But I'm like, no, a lot of it has to do with luck. And a lot of people don't believe in luck. But let's be honest, bass fishing, there is some luck that plays involved in it. There's no doubt. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, getting that bite on the last cast is, you put yourself in that position, and maybe in that right area. But the bottom line is you have to have a little luck to
it could have just as easily not bit as it bit, just like always in bass fishing.
Yes,
yeah.
I agree.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say, so that's, and everybody that's really in tune with the sport knows that the Central Division is the hardest division to qualify out of all the divisions that Bass has. And that's where the guys like Christie came out of, Hackney, the big names that you hear about, they've come out of that Central Division, when they qualified and then requalified again after they left to BPT, to MLF. They came out of that division, but normally a lot of guys, they try to dodge that Central Division because it's so many guys in this Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana area that, it's just, and even Alabama. I mean, Alabama's got some of the, the finest fishermen in the world in it. And so a lot of guys will kind of try to get away from that Central Division. And I'm just speaking truthful here, and they'll go to the Northern Division where it's a little, I'm not saying it's easy. It's just easier. And I'm not just saying that because for me to say it, I mean, you can look. I mean, everything that I'm saying is backed up by stats. You can look at it. I mean, there's a lot more of the longevity elite guys that have qualified out of the Central Division than any other division combined, the other divisions combined. So Central is the hardest to definitely qualify out of, but also, it just depends how you want to go about it, But up north, you have it might be a hair easier, but here's the deal. There's a lot of that smallmouth water up there, and if you're not familiar with smallmouth, you might as well just be peeing in the wind,
That's a whole different animal up there.
Oh, my God, yeah, because it's different than southern smallmouth. I mean, down here I live 5 minutes from Lake Belton, which now is probably the best smallmouth lake in the state of Texas. It used to be Lake Whitney, but then they've died out, but now they're coming back. They're restocking them. But so a southern smallmouth is totally different from a northern smallmouth. And I know I'm getting off kilter a little bit, but like a southern smallmouth, the nastier the weather, the rain, clouds, thunder, lightning, that's when they bite the best down here in the south. Now up north, totally opposite. They want bluebird, high skies, no wind, dead calm, and that's when they bite the best. So, just because you're a smallmouth guru down here doesn't mean you can go up there and catch them, because they're totally 2 different styles of fish,
Absolutely. Yeah, and you alluded to one thing, talking about Christie and Hackney coming back in and requalifying. How impressive, from a guy's perspective who fishes against these guys now, how difficult and how impressive is it that they went back through the requalifying process one time and did it? Like, yeah, this is just what we do.
Yes. No doubt. I mean, I sat there and watched the whole season unfold last year, and followed them, on the opens. And I mean, it was incredible, no doubt. I mean, that's just incredible to do it because they know that, it wasn't like, okay, let's give it another shot. I mean, they're technically, in my opinion, their name was riding on it. In other words, if you want to call yourself, the top 5 of the best in the world, you better perform under pressure like that. So technically, they had to make it their first year. And I'm not saying if they didn't, they would have dang sure redone it again this year and qualified through it. But what I'm getting at is to really cement their name into the books like they did. They literally requalified, like you said, in 1 year. Win and you're in kind of deal, and they shot it in 1 year, and man, unbelievable. And to watch those guys do it against a 225 boat field, and at least 50 of those guys were trying to do exactly what they were doing by, requalifying for the elites and making the elites. I mean, that's definitely a feat, But those two are, like I said, they're top 5 in the world, no doubt.
They're unbelievable. Well, and I don't want to leave him out because he did the same thing, just did it coming from a different circuit. But Scott Martin, everything you just said applies to him too because he did it coming from FLW, did a one-shot qualifying through the opens, and here he is too. So he's the same thing.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. No doubt. And Scott's a heck of a fisherman, Bottom line is, you don't win, 7 or 8 national events and a Forest Wood Cup and that type of stuff, by being just a slacker. That dude can catch them just as good as anybody too, and he did it. His just didn't look as skillful as Hackney's did, but the bottom line is the end result was there. In other words, he went down to the very last day of the last tournament, but heck, he pulled it out. So that just shows you, he's definitely got what it takes too, But it's just so impressive to watch Christie and Hackney get after it. I mean, they literally. And Hackney didn't even try to fish all the different.
I know. He's so good.
Yeah,
He's so good.
He could get the combined AOY, to make it in too. I mean, he literally just fished the Central Division, and that was it. He's like, I'm gonna do it right out of the Central Division, one division. I'm not even gonna take the combined points. Incredible. But Greg's a good dude. I mean, we share a few of the same sponsors and stuff, so I've had plenty of conversations with him and stuff like that. And he's just a good guy, but he's, when you get to that level, there is no cockiness in a man like that. He might come off like that to the outside public, but what it is it's literally just sheer confidence in his ability to catch them. There's no cockiness. He's a humble guy, but he just knows that you put him on that water, he's going to catch him eventually. That's just the bottom line.
100% with Greg, because it's not like Greg ever says anything that sounds cocky. I think the only time you might think that is just like maybe his demeanor or attitude. But if you just have that demeanor and attitude because you can back it up, that's not cockiness. That's just confidence. Like, that's just, he feels it. He knows who he is. He knows what game he's coming to play. He knows how he's going to play it, and he's going to cash more checks than you are. That's just how it is.
That's exactly right. Yep, exactly. And a lot of people, like I said, they take that as cockiness or arrogance, but it's really not. I mean, he's as humble as they get. I mean, the man's pedigree speaks for itself in his resume. The bottom line is he can catch them as good as anybody in the world, and and I'm just happy to be able to say I fished against guys like that.
Absolutely.
And like the first classic that I fished in 2019 in Knoxville, that was the year that everybody had, after that tournament, everybody had split to the BPT and, to MLF. And so I at least got to fish against the Van Dams and the Aaron Martins and, the guys that the Skeet Reeses and stuff like that. So at least I got to say that I got to fish against the, 50 of the best in the world that year. You know what I mean? So I kind of like that it wasn't like I got to, that I came in after that fact. I at least got to fish the Classic against those guys. So, it was cool.
Well, and so one thing that I wanted, one story to kind of give perspective to the viewers on, we're sitting here saying how difficult it is, and you're saying it from a pro's perspective, and that's great. But to kind of help some people that maybe really not get how difficult the Opens Road is, and I only know this story because he's from Lake Fork, but with Lee Livesey, He had tried to qualify for several years through the Opens. He had gotten really close the year before. He was actually qualified all the way through the last day, I believe. That was when he was doing 3 events, so it was 9 days of fishing. It was the ninth day was when he fell barely out of qualifications and when he lost his qualifying bid. The next year he goes out and is not doing as well. But I don't know how many years it was. Lee Livesey had tried for several years and never made the qualifications under those standards that are there now, the ones that are there now. Lee got in because of the expansion year, because of the split in the trails. When the trail split, he was one of the guys that got one of the expanded invitations. So Lee Livesey, and I don't say this to knock him, and I'm gonna back that up here in a second, but he actually never even qualified through the traditional Bassmaster Open standards. And this guy's won 2 Elite Series events in his first 3 years on tour.
Correct.
And he was almost Rookie of the Year, and he's up there in the top 10 or so. Last time I looked, of Angler of the Year standing. Like, this is one of the better guys on the tour the last 3 years, and he couldn't qualify.
Yep, that's true. That's exactly right. And there's a lot of guys that have that got into that in with that expansion year that have really made what I call made hay while the sun shined. And they got that one break, that one opportunity, and they've literally ran with it. You know, and like you said, I know Lee really well. We talk outside of fishing a lot and stuff like that. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. Lee is like, I think he could run for president because he knows everybody. It's like this dude's got, and we laugh. He's got, you see the Whiskey Myers and all that on the side of his boat. And I mean, this dude is, partied with those guys in college. I mean, he just literally knows everybody from coast to coast. I've never seen anybody be able to network like that man does, but he does. And he, but that's, it's just like, it's scary to think that you give that man this one opportunity and he made it in, and then all of a sudden he's just, there's no looking back. Pretty much he's solidified his young career already by winning 2, Elite Series tournaments in the last 2 years. One being, both of them being on top water, but one being, second or third heaviest limit that's ever been weighed in.
Yeah, that was so epic. That was one of the most special days in bass fishing history, to have the hometown guy do it on Championship Sunday and to be the second or third biggest bag ever. Like, that's just, you can't write. Like, they won't buy that script in Hollywood,
Never. No doubt. And, and so he's a good guy. He is.
Yeah.
And like I said, I have nothing but good things for Lee, and he took advantage of the situation and he's ran with it, and I'm glad to see it happen, for him. And anytime anybody on tour that that fishes there, everybody I respect and I like, there's no animosity between any of us really, because I think we've kind of come to have that mutual respect, and my traveling partner Brad Watley, me and him, we talk every day, and then me and Clark Winlet, we live 30 minutes apart, and he's taught me a lot too. I mean, that man's been doing it for 30 years on tour, and so he's given me a lot of insight on how to practice correctly for these events, because a lot of guys, I mean, when you're trying to fish for 4-day event, there's a whole different practice scheme and all that. And I know I'm kind of getting off topic, but I'm just like explaining like just some of the mentors that you make, on tour, that guys that you look up to that can help you, and that man, he's won, 4 Angler of the Year titles, and
Clark Winlet's won like everything. He's won everything on every tour, it seems like.
Yes, and I mean, he's won like 7 or 8 national events, with FLW and Bass, and AOY with Bass, and 3 with FLW. I mean, heck, the guy's been on the Kellogg's Cornflake or Frosted Flakes box.
Yeah.
That dude's forgot more about fishing than I'll ever know, and he taught me. I know you're a really big sight fisherman, and I've watched your videos time and time again to learn and stuff like that. And he took me under his wing and showed me a lot this off season. And then when we got to Fork, sure enough, the first day I weighed in like a little over 20 pounds, and I caught every single one of those fish that first day off the beds. And I was like, I would have never done that before. You know what I mean? So I give him props for that, because he took me under his wing. He didn't have to show me, because he showed me a lot of stuff that he swore me to secrecy, stuff that he won national events doing it, so he's seen it all, and he's been doing it since the 80s, and sight fishing, now he says he doesn't do it as much. I will let the fans know a little bit that He says he doesn't do it as much anymore because everybody does it now, But he said back in the 80s and 90s, nobody tried to win an event sight fishing. That was like unheard of. So he said he'd have all those fish to himself up on the bank.
Wow.
And he said now it's just so much more competitive that he kind of just has, unless it's the only thing going, he won't mess with it anymore. But, you're talking about a guy that's literally won, $100,000 tournaments doing it, and he won't even hardly do it anymore during a tournament situation because he said just so many people beat him down doing it, because they're getting so good doing it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one thing about fishing. Everybody's getting better, man. It's well, first, and I do want to take time to point this out. You said that you watch our videos, and me and you have had this conversation in person while we were at the Classic. But I do want to publicly on this deal tell you thank you very much. It means a lot to me. It's one of the coolest things that's happened to me in this process is talking to guys like yourself and Brandon Card and just, I mean, I could just go down the whole list. Stetson, Blake, like there's a whole list of you guys that I've gotten to know a little bit and talk to now. And the fact that you guys actually watch what we do and respect the content that we put out, it just means a whole lot, buddy. And we really appreciate it.
Oh, anytime, Billy. And that, yeah, from the sincerity of my heart, no doubt. I mean, I watch you. If you didn't put out good content and you didn't know what you're doing, I'm just being point blank because that's how I am. I wouldn't be watching it, and I watch it everything you put out. I watch. I'm a subscriber.
That's awesome, man.
The little bell rings when you put out something new. So that's just what we do. I mean, I want to be the best I can be if I'm going to do this, and learning from other people. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
if I can catch a little something that you do different than what I've done, or you can teach me something. Yeah, I'm outside in the wings, just watching behind the curtain. You don't even know it.
Well, that's awesome, brother, man. I want to transition this conversation. So basically, to wrap up, what it takes to become a professional bass fisherman is, in my opinion, you can tell me where you disagree or do agree or whatever, but if you're a young man that's wanting to come through this, you got to have the freedom of schedule, right? So you got to work out your family life situation and figure that out. If you're young and you're single, that's going to make that a lot easier. But either way, I always recommend this to kids that get in my boat on guide trips that are wanting to know how to do it. I say, get a job in the industry. That way, that job will be more likely to be more understanding of the time it's going to take when you need to take a time off for this or you need to travel for that or whatever. Try to get a job that you can live on in the industry and go from there, and then be nice to everybody. Make friends with as many people as you can because you never know who's going to be your sponsor, and you are going to need them if you make it through.
Yeah, no doubt. That's great advice. Because, the industry is really, in the big scheme of things, is very small. And so if you burn one bridge, you most likely burn a bunch of bridges because everybody knows everybody, even though they're competing brands like Berkeley guys, meaning the management in Berkeley knows the management in Strike King, knows the management in Sixth Sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's a small, tight-knit community, and they will sell you out and burn you down if you do somebody wrong. So you have to really make sure you treat everybody, like you said, with respect and nice. And like you said, the biggest thing is get your family stuff in order. If you're still a young man, in high school or college and you want to pursue this, heck, I'm not lying, live with your parents, milk that kitty out as long as you can, because let them pay the bills for you while you're gone, and it makes it so much easier, to be able to pursue that. And, the number one question I get, of course, is sponsorship. How do you get sponsors? Well, that's the bottom line is, I'm just point blank. I'm going to tell you, catch them. If you're worrying about sponsorships before you even get started, you're looking at it the wrong way. You need to catch them. And right now with social media being the way it is, you need to get you a good Instagram following, a good Facebook following, and start doing like you do, the YouTube thing and the social media, that type of videos. That's something that I'm lacking on, that I need to really work on in this off season, is get a little YouTube channel put up and all that. But you have to show them that you can catch them, and you have to show your worth to that company. And so what I'm getting at is, don't worry about how to get sponsors. They'll come to you, trust me. If you're worth it and they know and they see what you're doing, they'll start coming to you, And if you're not real savvy on the social media, get started in it. But then if that's not your game, then you better catch them like a Greg Hackman or Jason Christie, because that's really how it goes. But I think, and I'm just throwing that in there because that's a big thing of becoming a professional, is everybody wants to know. The first question you get asked is, how do you get sponsors, And
you don't.
The bottom line,
they get you.
Don't. Yeah, they get you. That's right. And don't worry about sponsors, because if you're asking how you can get them, then you're really behind the eight ball. What you need to be worrying about is how you're going to go out and catch that next fish in competition, you know?
Yeah, I've boiled down that for me, I've boiled that down to a real quick and easy answer to any kid that asks me that, because that is a question that comes up a lot, is how to get sponsors. And my answer is always catch them, document it, post it absolutely everywhere. If you're good enough, sponsors are coming. Like that's it. That's all there is to it.
That's exactly right, and that's well said. I mean, that's exactly what I was trying to convey is just if you do enough of it, they'll start catching notice. You know what I mean? And don't, you know, bottom line is just do something for them before you try to pursue them. In other words, you know, start tagging, you know, Seagar Fishing Line or Strike King or 6 Cents Baits in your post with holding fish, and that, you know, you continue to do that, they'll take notice, you know, and that's the best way to do things. Don't try to just go to Strike King or 6 Cents or, you know, anybody lose or whatever and just say, hey, what can you give me some free rods and reels, man? Nah, it doesn't work that way. I mean, they get thousands of those emails a week, trust me, you know. I mean, what separates you from any other Tom, Dick, and Harry is you being able to promote their product, because the bottom line is that's why they want to sponsor you, is because you move the sales needle. You know, if you can't sell a bait, a rod, a reel, some line for them, a hook, a sinker, then they don't really need you.
Yep.
And that's 100%. Just the reality of it.
That is great advice, and I am so glad that we got to go into this topic with you. And I wanted to talk to you about it because I know you're a guy who had lived a lot of life before you went into this all in, and I knew your perspective would be spot on and open and honest, and I can't say thank you enough. Now, before we let you go, we got to transition into one more thing, because there's no way I can talk to a man who's won an Elite Series event without talking to a man about winning an Elite Series event, because the reality is that's something that just not that many people really have done. You know, it's just not a common thing. I mean, there's a lot of Elite Series tournaments, but in the scheme of things, for all the guys that line up and go fish the Opens and all the guys that fish the FLWs and so forth and so on, there's only a select few that have won at the top level. And Frank the Tank Talley is one of them. So can you take us through that experience? Talk to us about, how that tournament went, what went down, and then the feeling of accomplishing that.
Sure, I'd love to, Billy. I've practiced. It was at Guntersville in October for some of the folks that are listening that might not know. It was in October. It was a fall event this past October. And so Guntersville is, you know, a TVA lake, and that's, a Tennessee Valley lake. And so it's got the Tennessee River running through it, you know. And I went out there in practice, and normally the river doesn't play at Guntersville because we normally fish it in the early pre-spawn, the spawn, and again, if you're going to fish it, usually fish it in, late May, June area where the offshore bite is great. So in other words, the river usually doesn't play as far as winning an event up there, because you can catch a solid 16 to 18, 19 pounds up there, but in those times of years that I discussed, like in the early spring through, early summer, I mean, it's 25-pound bags that come out of that lake every day, especially with, the elites. So I'm like, you're not going to do any good, and you don't go out to fish these tournaments, at least I don't, just draw a check or to make a cut. I go out there every tournament thinking, I got to win, I want to win. So, and if you're not doing that, you're selling yourself short.
Let me ask you one question. Let me interrupt you and ask you one question about that. You having that mentality of not going for a check and going to win, do you think you're able to do that more so because you have something backing you up at home financially?
Well, yes. Honestly, it's a catch-22, Billy. Yes, that you hit the nail on the head, but I also have to be concerned about, I can't just go for broke and go and swinging for the fences, as that cliche always says, swing for the fence, because you still have to worry about requalification.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Once you've made it to the Elite Series, doesn't guarantee you're going to be on there. I mean, like this year's my requalification year. In other words, normally it's every 2 years, but since COVID and stuff last year, they extended us another year. But so you have to take your average for those 2 or 3 years, and as long as you fall below the amount of people they're going to cut, at the end of the year, then you're okay. Like this year, and this is, your people on your podcast are going to hear it for the first time, and I don't even know if I'm supposed to say it, but they're going to cut 23 guys this year off the Elite Series. So, Yeah, so that, I mean, you heard that right there, and I imagine that they're going to call me and slap my pee-pee a little bit. But you know what? That it is what it is. But it's all going to come to light here, you know, in the next month or so, and you know, there's no hiding it. But yeah, so I mean, that's going to be the biggest cut in Elite Series history because they want to bring. They got 13 coming in from the Opens and a Bass Nation angler, and so they want to bring that field down to 90. So the bottom line is you know, they're going to cut 23 to make room for that 13 coming in, and then dropping the field from 100 down to 90. So there's 23 guys that are going to get the axe after this season. So yeah, to admit real quick that you're in a catch-22. I want to go out there. I mean, financially, I don't have to worry about making a check, so to speak. But in the same sense, I can't just go hog wild every tournament because I have to still requalify. You know what I mean? So you have to get those valuable points, and you have to do good for AOY. Otherwise, you'll just get cut. So that's you know, that's just a little So there's more to it than just once you've made it. It's kind of like, you know, it's like the PGA on golf, and you have to keep your card. You know what I mean? So, in other words, you know, just because you've made it, you only guaranteed when you make it 2 years. And then if you don't, you know, if you're not finishing better than whatever percentage they're going to cut, like if they're cutting 20 that year, your percentage for those 2 years that you've been in it better be the best in the top 80% is what I'm getting at. Right. So, you know, so next year I'll be up again, and then again, and then again. So it's never, you've never like made your, you know, even like a guy like we talked about with Lee, even though he's won 2 Elite Series events, I've won 1, doesn't guarantee that we're going to make it after next year or the year after. If we don't perform, we could be cut, you know what I mean? So it's just, once you've arrived, so to speak, doesn't mean that you're in for good. No, it's constant struggle to just keep requalifying. Yeah. So,
well, I didn't mean to take you on that much of a tangent, but that's crazy. That's your Lake Fork Guide exclusive, folks. We're the only ones that've heard that, so we appreciate that.
That's right. That's a Lake Fork Guide exclusive, no doubt. I guarantee you, nobody knows, you know, but the guys that are in the Elite Series about that.
Wow.
So that kind of give you a tidbit. So, but go back to real quick to Guntersville. So I practiced. I had a horrible practice for the first 2 days. The third day, I was up in the river. I finally went up there because I couldn't get anything going in the lake, so to speak. I mean, I was catching a few fish, you know, getting a few bites. But, I mean, when you're talking about fishing against this type of field, I mean, 15 pounds a day isn't going to really do you any good, you know. So I'm like, I got to find something. So I went up there, and literally with like 30 minutes left, I got on a bank real quick and threw a Strike King Thunder Cricket. And I had 2 bites, and they were just 2 3-pounders, but it was like back to back, like 5 casts apart. And I'm like, So I literally left that with that in the back of my mind, but I wasn't fully convinced that was like the thing to do. So fast forward, the next day started the tournament, and I stayed in the lake till about 11 o'clock that morning. I stayed in the lake where I practiced the first 2.5 days, and just couldn't get anything going. I literally had 1 keeper fish at like 11 o'clock. So I went up into the river. I'm like, what do I got to lose? I went up in the river and went to that stretch that I had caught those 2 on, and like within like an hour, I had like 16.5 or 17 pounds. And I'm like, okay. You know, not thinking much. I said, that put me middle of the pack. That put me in the top 50, you know, kind of deal. You know, at least I didn't stumble, you know, stub my toe too bad. You know, we'll figure out what I'll do tomorrow. Well, lo and behold, like I was in like the top 20 after day 1, and I'm like, okay, well maybe if I can really fish it hard on day 2 and catch me maybe 18 or 19, I can, you know, actually, you know, move up a little bit. So that's what I did. I started up there on day 2 and caught like nearly 18, like 17 and some change. And boom, I'm sitting in like top 15 after 2 days. So I moved up a little more. Then after the third day, I caught 18 pounds, and I'm like, I came in and I was in 6th place going into the last day. And so I'm like, you know, I just really thought that, you know, Wes Logan was going to have to stumble. A few people were going to have to stumble. And, you know, I said, man, I know I can catch me probably 16 pounds up there again on day 4. And so I went up there and I literally, I mean, it went down on TV.
Yeah, we saw it.
Yeah, it was like, like first 5 casts, I caught a 5.5. I caught, I had a limit like 30 minutes and I catch another 5 at the end of the, at the end of the, what I call the end of the bank. I ran up on an island that I had never fished, and it just all came together. And so I'm sitting like with like 17.5 pounds. And then I make one last coal on a frog later in the day, still up in the river, and I ended up having like close to 18.5, mid 18 and some change. And I mean, I ended up winning by like 3 pounds, and I didn't expect it. That's what I was getting at. Is that just like I went out in 6th place, figured if I could just do my job, I could probably get, and if those guys stumbled, I'd probably move up into the top 3 kind of deal, But I really I had no pressure on me to I had camera boat and stuff, no doubt, but it's like I didn't have any pressure to man, I'm right there within a pound or whatever, and it wasn't one of those events where you could catch 25 or 30 pounds and make a big comeback. So I just really went out fishing, and I think that's what helped me is there wasn't a lot of pressure on me because nobody expected me to come from behind and win. And but after about 9 o'clock that morning, when I had that good weight already, the camera boats started coming, and they're flying drones, and there was spectator boats watching, and I'm like, something's fishy. You know what I mean?
I was going to ask you if that, if you had that moment where you got the crowd, you got the armada, I was wondering if that happened for you.
Yes, it did. I had about 11 or 12 follower boat, armada fans that came up on boats. And then I had 2 camera boats plus, when I say camera boats, they were, still photographer boats. And then I had a camera boat in, a video camera boat in with me or a guy in that morning with me in the boat all day. So I had, 2 still camera boats shooting pictures. I had my video. I had 8 or 10 or 12, fan boats, and then another boat comes and he's flying a drone over me and all this, and I'm thinking, you know what, this, and that was before I caught that last 4-pounder on a frog, and I'm like, you know what, if I can catch me one more good one, I can seal this deal. I'm pretty sure they're not around me because they just like the way Frank the Tank looks. I didn't put my makeup on that morning, so I knew it wasn't because of my good looks. You know what I mean? So I knew something was brewing. And so I was like, man, I just put my head down and I kept telling myself, man, just let me catch them. Good Lord, let me put another 4 in the boat. And sure enough, I got bit with a 4-pounder, and I, on braid, and it was just it was meant to be. She hit it, and I'm like, I cracked her, and I just literally just winched her to the boat and boat flipped her, because that's the way I do things. I'm too big a guy to be bending over every 5 minutes trying to belly cradle these things like Paul and Nick. I don't do none of that. I just fish heavy line, big sticks, and just boat flip them.
Yeah, that sucker's, he's got a lot more flexibility than me and you do, Frank.
Yeah. We got too much, going on. We like us a little sweet libations in the evening time, a little whiskey, a little Coke, everybody asks me what my diet consists of, and I tell them it's a pound of bacon, a pot of coffee, a carton of cigarettes, and some whiskey at night. That's how Frank the Tank gets down.
Throw a ribeye steak in there once or twice a week, and we are talking the same language, brother.
That's right, brother. I ain't no tofu man here. You ain't gonna get no rabbit food in me,
I'm gonna tell you right now, Brandon Pauling's definitely more flexible than me or you, because if either one of us put them britches on that tight, guaranteed they'd have to take the cameras off an hour in.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. That is Polinick. Yes, sir. Yeah, them old britches are tighter than a dang tight can get, and it's like, dude. And he's a good dude, but ain't no way I'm winching those things down like that.
Yeah, he's a good dude, but them britches, I don't know what he's doing there, but that ain't what I've ever wanted to fish in, even when I was young, dog.
Oh, yeah. Heck, I wasn't his size when I was born. I was already bigger than he was.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean?
That's right.
So I wouldn't know nothing about that. Heck, I've been one of them old, you got to wear them old gym shorts and gym sweats, because them old, that denim and that corduroy and stuff, you'll just blow them out, be fat man in a little coat, when you bend over.
Yeah.
But to just go back to what you're saying, so I went, and I caught that 4, and I got back to Wayne, and you still have that voice in your head telling you, you just didn't do enough. One more. You're always, trying to better yourself and stuff. And so I really thought they interviewed me while I was idling in after I checked in, and they're like, "So how do you think you did?" And I was like, "I think I left one fish out there that would have solidified me the tournament. You know, I really feel like at first I thought just one more 4-pounder was going to help me, but the more I'm thinking about it, and I really probably needed another 4-pounder or 4.5 to really make sure that I don't have to worry about it. Well, my son backs in my boat. They all drove in. My family all drove in overnight and stuff. So, and they didn't drive in because they saw, obviously, they drove from Texas to Alabama, so that's a 15-hour drive. So they started driving in after day 3, and they got there, and my son backs the boat in. I put it on the trailer. My wife comes up, and she's crying, and I said, "What's going on?" I said, "I gave it everything I had, babe." And she's like, "You won this sumbitch." And I said, "No." I said, "You're crazy. You're nuttier than a fruitcake, woman." And she said, "No." She said, "Frank, I'm pretty sure you won it. Bass Track's got you up, because once you check in, you can check Bass Track, you know."
Yeah.
And so I checked in. I put the boat on the trailer, and she said, "Bass Track's got you up by like 2 pounds." And I'm like, "Yeah, but those are sandbagging son of guns, baby."
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they will sandbag you to death. And she's like, "Well, what do you really have?" And she said, "You're only showing 17 pounds. I said, "I know, I got over 18. And she said, "Well, that even if they're showing it, you're showing 2 pounds, you add 3 pounds, another pound to that, that's 3 pounds. Even if they sandbag by 2 pounds, you won it." And I'm like, well, then she started getting my adrenaline going. I'm getting goose pimples, and, I'm like, "You think?" And she's like, "I'm telling you, babe, you won it. I just got one of them feelings. You won it, hands down." And I'm like, how you still don't believe it. And then everybody's coming over and talking to me, while we're waiting to drive through weigh-in. And Wes, Logan, Welcher, they're all coming up congratulating me. They're like, "You got us today, dude." And I'm like, "No, you guys are sandbagging." He's like, "No, we don't have the weight. Honestly, we just don't. We're not hiding anything. You've won it." And I still didn't believe it. And then when Mercer called it and said, that Wes needed 15 or 16 pounds or 16 pounds to win, and he only had 13, it was like, I was like, oh my God, the emotions came over me. And then, it's just, I didn't know what to do. I just looked up at the Lord, said, "Thank you, Jesus." And literally, and the bad thing, or the only, if you could say there's a bad thing, the only thing that I wish wouldn't happen is we literally that was the start of a 3-week straight back to back to back. We had that, then we had Santee Cooper, then we had Chickamauga. So I really didn't get a chance to enjoy that win until after those 3 tournaments were over. And then we only had a week off, and then we were at Fort, remember, in November.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I just didn't have any time to enjoy it. The phone's ringing off the hook while I'm practicing at Santee Cooper, because the very next day, I drove through the night to get to South Carolina just to be able to practice for Santee Cooper. So, I did my photo shoot stuff. When you win one of those tournaments, you do some photo shoots afterwards. You got to do a bunch of media interviews and stuff like that. So I didn't get out of there till 9 o'clock that night, and then literally packed all my stuff out of the hotel and literally drove all through the night to get to South Carolina to start practice, So it was that's the only, I don't want to call it a regret. There's never, I'll do it every time like that. But I'm just saying that to really sit back and relish it, it took me about 3 weeks to finally be able to let it absorb that I actually had won, because you just go into game mode again, into the next event. So you really don't have time to think about it. And, like at Santee Cooper, I backed it up the next week I finished Santee Cooper in 14th place. And after day 1, I was in top 3. And so, I was just on a roll, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and then again comes camera boats and all that. So I fished a solid event there, fished another solid event at Chick, and finished another solid event at Fort. I only missed 1 cut last year, and that was the very first tournament of the year in Florida. And the rest of them, the other 8 tournaments, I made the cut and did well, So it's just.
Yeah, you had a roll going in that fall kind of grinder series that it turned into, man. You were rolling.
Yeah, and that's honestly, Billy, because honestly, that's what I like. I like them grinder tournaments. I like fall fishing. I'm a deer hunter too, like a lot of us, and a lot of your listeners. But the bottom line is I still love to bass fish in the fall too. So I don't let that deer hunting just get in my way all the time. In other words, I do my deer hunting, no doubt, but I also do a lot of fishing in the fall. And I know that a lot of these guys, and I'm not taking anything away from any of them because they can catch them anywhere, everywhere, and any time of the year. But a lot of guys just don't fish in the fall on tour. And I know that, when you got to only grind out 6 or 7 bites a day is a great day. I knew that would get into the minds of some of them. And I'm like, this is right up my alley. I can fish for 5 to 6 bites a day. You know what I mean? And that's what it ended up being throughout the fall. Chick was Chick, when Lee won, I mean, that son of a gun was a brutal tournament. And, I mean, I think I caught 5 the first day, 5 the second day, and only 3 the third day, and still finished like 25th, with 13 fish in 3 days. So, I mean, it was a brutal turn, string of events in the South in the fall is tough. And that you guide here, and it's just, you don't get a lot of bites.
There's a lot of randomness to it, man. In the fall, it's a weird dynamic. There's some falls where things line up and they school up on shad, and you'll have some of the best days of the year. And then it's like, but the next day is like the worst day of the year, and you really don't know why. It seems to me like in the fall, and we kind of saw that at Fork in the fall, where like Klung goes out there the first day and whacks 30-something pounds just cranking a square bill around a dock or whatever he was doing. There's just some of that randomness to it. Unless you're Patrick Walters and you're the only guy with a live scope on Lake Fork, apparently.
I know. It's like unbelievable. I mean, that
was crazy.
He opened it up for everybody
He
to
sure
see.
did.
Kind of, and like that tournament there, all I threw was a vibrating jig the whole tournament. The first day I had 4, but I had 4 good ones, like 18 pounds. And I had the next day I only had 3, but they were 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And then the last day or the third day I only had 1, but it was 7 pounds. So it's like, I was like, how do you make but that's only that shows you how good Lake Fork is, even when it's off. I mean, I literally caught, whatever it was, 9 fish in 3 days and still finished in the 30th place. So it's like, man, that just shows you how good that place is. You live on a mecca, like you say, to your viewers, it's the GOAT. It's the greatest lake of all time.
For trophy bass, for 7-pound plus bass, it's the best there's ever been. Man, we've actually got a viewer question. I should have said that earlier, but for the guys that are viewing right now, if y'all want to ask Frank questions, drop them in the comments. I'll relay them to him. Corey Hoops asked if you have ever come out and fished Lake Havasu, Frank.
Yes, actually, Corey, I have fished. I've fished Havasu quite a bit. I fished. I actually grew up on the West Coast, and so I'm real familiar with Havasu, Lake Mead, a lot of the, Mead's in Nevada, of course, but Havasu's in Arizona. I fished Roosevelt out there, Lake Alamo in Arizona, Lake Pleasant. So, I mean, I'm familiar with all those lakes out west, and, I love Havasu, and now that it's got the introduction of those big smallmouth in it, I mean, it's just even better. Back when I fished it 25 years ago, it was a largemouth only lake. But now they've had smallmouth in it. I imagine the last, I'm sure you can tell us better, but 10 or 15 years, and it's really changed things. But it's still got great largemouth fishing in it too. But yes, I love Havasu. Very good lake.
This is me and you really just met for the first time a couple weeks ago at the Classic at Ray Roberts. But we had a few conversations over those days, and I said this to you there, and I'll say it to you now. It's really easy for me to talk to you because I think that's one of the reasons you like some of the content we put up. We see things a lot the same way. Like, I don't think we have disagreed on anything we've ever said to each other until you start talking about Lake Havasu, and I'm clueless because I have no clue what it's like to fish west of Texas, brother. So I'm lost.
Well, and honestly, Billy, if you could keep it that way, do it. There's some great lakes out west, but let's be honest. I mean, from Texas east is where it's at. And that's not taken away from anybody, any of your viewers or anything. Like I said, I grew up on the West Coast, and came to Texas to go to college, and so, I the first 16, 17 years of my life was spent on the West Coast, so I'm familiar with that. So I think I have a little bit of right to talk bad about it if I want to. But it's good. If there are good lakes out there, they're just so heavily pressured, and there's just so many dang rules and regulations to those fish out west. Like, they just – you can't, if they're hooked outside the mouth, you can't keep them in a tournament. I mean, even not when you're sight fishing. I'm just talking regular. About anything. Yeah, regular fishing. And I mean, that's kind of, that's some crackerjack rules, So, I mean, but they do have some phenomenal lakes out there, and I'm not taking anything away from them. But bottom line is, for the last, all my kids are born here in Texas, and I've been here for 26, 27 years. And so, I mean, I call this place my home, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
We'll proudly claim you. We got one guy trolling us, so I'll ask you one more viewer question because he's trolling us and it's funny, and then we'll let you go because we've been on a long time, and I appreciate it. Dusty Newton wants to know, does Frank throw a drop shot?
Oh.
And you've watched enough of my content to know where that's coming from.
Yes. Let me put it this way: if I have to, I will throw one, no doubt. I do keep a couple of those little fairy ones in my rods locker because you might need that one extra fish. But bottom line is I try to keep away from it. But I do carry a few packs of Morning Dawn 6-inch straight tails.
Sure.
There's no doubt,
Sure.
and because you just that technique is hard to beat when you just need one extra fish or one last fish for the day. But the bottom line is I really try to stay away from it. I think I'm more apt to throw one on a bait caster with 20-pound test
There you go.
than on a spinning rod.
That old Texas drop shot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, Frank, the deal is, and you've heard me say this before, and I know I'm not supposed to say these things in 2021, but we do it anyway around here because we're still
That's
free
right.
in this great state of Texas where I come from. So you can win a tournament throwing a drop shot, but you're going to look gay doing it.
That's exactly right. I'm not one to really want to look gay. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
with you.
yeah.
That's why I put them big boy pants on. And I fish with them old flip flops, and I get after it. I mean, don't get me wrong. You have to be versatile in this industry and in this sport to really do good because even the Greg Hackneys that we spoke about in the Christies, they'll pick up spinning rods when they have to.
Oh, yeah.
I will too, but if the perfect scenario, I would never touch one. If I ever had a chance, I would never pick one up again, but I know that's not going to happen. So yes, I will throw a drop shot every now and then.
100%. You have to if you're a tournament guy like yourself. You absolutely have to, man. Hey,
Yes, sir.
brother, I can't wait. I'm either I'm coming to Belton or you're coming up here. Something's happening sometime this year. We're going to get together. I know you guys got to travel here the next few weeks. You'll be gone for another month or so or whatever it's going to be, but we're going to stay in touch and we're getting in the boat together because it's going to be a good time.
We're going to hammer them, no doubt, Billy. You've got some great lakes up there. I'd be loving to fish with you, and I've got a couple down here that we'll keep on the down low till we do a TV show on them or something. But
Yes, sir.
we got a couple lakes down here that I guarantee you the fans would be excited to watch us fish because we'll catch them, no doubt.
Absolutely, brother. Well, hey, man, thank you so much. I know you took a lot of time with us tonight. I appreciate it as always, Frank. And, man, just go get after them. Do us proud up north. We'll be pulling for you, brother.
All right. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you again. And thanks, everybody, for watching your Lake Fork Guide.
There it
Tank
is.
out.
Thanks, brother. Golly, the Tank. I love that guy. I love that guy, man. That guy is my guy. That's my guy. Listen, Hackney's my all-time favorite fisherman. But getting to know this cat, I kind of am starting to... Hackney's there might be losing a little luster on the old Hack Attack. That's a joke, of course. I love Hackney, as always have. Man, Frank the Tank has quickly become one of my best favorite guys to watch ever since I've gotten to meet him and know him and talk to him about some fishing stuff. So, big shout out to Frank Talley. Y'all go follow everything he does. He's amazing. Well, Brian Anderson's telling me to ask him. I done hung up. I messed something up. Anyways, I don't know what he's saying. Ask him to. Top 5 baits for summer? Oh, man, I should have asked. That would have been a great question to ask him. I can get that answer from him and post it later, though. So I promise you guys we talk local fishing. We'll do it quick because we've been on so long. But local fishing right now, man, it's offshore driven for me. Everybody's kind of doing offshore. It's starting to get crowded offshore. Be polite to each other. Don't run up on guys when they're out there setting up on a spot or drafting them when they're fishing. There's a lot of offshore spots on Lake Fork. There's a lot of offshore spots on almost all these lakes in East Texas, so let's be polite to each other out there. But it's offshore, and for me, the deal's the Carolina rig. It ain't changed since I talked Thursday. So it's really the Carolina rig, and it's two things on the Carolina rig. The 10-inch ribbon tail worm, I'm throwing the ridge worm from 6 Sense Fishing, and then the fluke style bait, the flush from 6 Sense Fishing. I'm throwing those two baits. Of course, you can go order those baits at 6censefishing.com. And if you do, punch in the code Your Lake Fork Guide, you'll save 10% on anything you order from 6censefishing.com. But Carolina Rig's been the big deal. Also, the swim bait, the Divine swim bait on the Divine half-ounce underspin jig head for a swim bait. We've been catching bonus fish on that for me in my boat. Now, the key depth seems to be, there's a lot of variance in it. Most of the fish I'm catching, the bigger schools seem to be a little bit shallower, but they're a little bit more nomadic on the shallower schools. So like 12 feet, 15 feet, kind of that range right there. That seems to be when you find a school in that depth, it's a bigger school, but they're also a little more likely to pull off the structure. If you can find a smaller school in 20 to 25, 18 to 20, 20 to 25. Those deeper schools seem to be more stuck on their area and more willing to stay around and bite better, even though the other schools are bigger. Now, of course, when you catch one of those bigger schools on those shallower spots, and you do get them biting when there's more of them in there and they start getting competitive, that's when the real home run happens and you can catch them quick. So they're in a variance of depth. I'm running a lot of main lake points, but also, man, just humps and pond dams and road beds. We're doing a little bit of everything right now. We've reached that time of year where we're kind of at the peak of actually, even though we're in July now, we're about to be in July, we're at the peak of what is the post-spawn bite that normally happens at the end of May, first week or two of June. We're just, like we have been all year, almost a full month behind. So that deal has peaked over the last week or so. It's really going down. There's a lot of guys catching big schools of bass offshore. It's not just me. And I'm not really catching them as good as a lot of guys are. There's other guys out there, Eric Wright, Jason Collins, Zach Hughes. Man, there's a lot of guys. Lee Livesey, a lot of dudes catching them better than I am right now, honestly, if I'm being honest with y'all. But they're all seem to be kind of doing the same thing, and that's those offshore schools. And I don't know what depths those guys are fishing. I know some of them because I've seen them, but and some of them are fishing some of the same stuff that we are in my boat. So it's good. It's good offshore fishing. It's a great time to go learn about your electronics right now. Go get familiar with them. So that's what's going on fishing-wise around here in Northeast Texas at Lake Fork specifically, and I'm sure most of the other lakes around here as well. So hope that helps some of y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed. Looks like a lot of you guys are commenting about enjoying the interview with Frank Talley tonight, man. He's great. I appreciate him once again. And even more so than all that, I appreciate all of y'all. Come see us for our big event this weekend, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of July. We're going to kick off the night of the 2nd at 6 o'clock. We'll have a seminar, a roast where I'm going to get talked really bad about because these people know me really well. They're going to be doing it. Then we've got a concert going on that night while we're doing registration for the tournament. Open team tournament on Saturday. Live auction where you can buy items for who knows how good of a price, all going towards 22 kilo. Sunday, of course, we got our invitational tournament where you can buy your partner. So get out there to Lake Fork Marina this weekend. Hope to see every one of y'all. And thank y'all again, as always. We'll see you next time right here on your Lake Fork Guide.